I go home and I'm reminded of those norms because my grandma will still be like, come on, you're going to help me in the kitchen. And then like my husband he's only allowed to sit down and I have to go make his plate. If I don't make his plate, my grandma is going
hit a nerve.
off. I know. My grandma's going off though if I don't make his plate.
Who made the plate making situation like so heavy on the woman? And it's like in your household, normally that's not what's going down. But here I have to be like, you're right. Let me go make the plate.
Listen, and I'm not arguing with grandma.
Oh no, I'm gonna make the plate.
it.
Even when like I'm at family functions and like say my partner wasn't there, it was like, you're not gonna bring him a plate? And I'm like, I didn't even think about it. Like, is that the only thing men do is eat?
Also, maybe he already ate. Hello, beautiful people. I am Deja Riley.
And I'm Alicia Ferguson.
And you are tuning into Dose of Duality, the podcast where we cultivate community around the deep state of coexistence. Did I do that right?
That was perfect.
I feel like I forgot one of the C's. What was the...
Run.
Well,
community.
No, community, coexistence, and something else. Not culture.
No.
I forgot our intro, guys. So you've heard it on the other episodes. This is my pregnancy brain.
Run it back.
We got cultivation, we got community, and we got coexistence. Yeah, that's going to be the C's for now.
I like that.
Yeah,
I'm with that. It's the new evolved version for right now.
And when I leave here, I'm going to remember what that other C was. So
you're going to text me like, ha! I got it.
Oh my gosh, Alicia, I love sitting on this couch with you. It's literally one of my favorite things to do in life.
It like always brightens my day.
Mine too. Mine too. Even when I'm feeling heavy.
The energy for me.
It's the energy for me too. How are you feeling?
I had some coffee.
Okay.
Late night coffee. I don't normally do that, but I think my soul was calling for it. My spirit said, please go and get McCaff. It wasn't good coffee.
Oh, it told you to go get McCaff, McDonald's.
McCaff is across the street.
I cannot come for you for going to McDonald's because guess where I went last week? Well, my husband did it. I'm blaming Jimmy.
Where'd you go?
Taco Bell. And let me just tell you, that Crunchwrap Supreme and those cinnamon twists never hit so well. I'm telling you.
That is the one. Taco Bell and Arby's, I hate. And I don't even say hate.
So sorry. But I did it.
What?
I know.
Taco Bell?
The baby was loving it.
How was it was good?
It was so good.
It settled in your stomach?
I want it again.
No.
I know. And here's the worst part about it. So when I was in high school.
Am I fast food snob? I don't know.
No.
I'm just like.
You're not. I don't eat fast food. That's why I said this is a big deal for me. Like I went to Taco Bell. I cannot judge you for being at McDonald's because I might be there soon. But I definitely, when I was in high school, dropped a taco from Taco Bell in my backseat, right? Mm-hmm. Get this. Weeks later, found the taco in the same exact condition. Weeks. The cheese, the meat, the lettuce, the burrito, or the wrap, whatever, everything in the same exact condition. So I just want to let you know.
No mold. It hadn't aged at all.
Hadn't aged.
And that's what's just happening. I just can't get down with Taco Bell.
Well,
everything, the gordita, all of it, it's just, I'm not.
Oh, a gordita.
Oh, come on, no.
Yes.
I love a Checkers, though. I love a seasoned fry.
Oh, I love a seasoned fry. I love a curly
fry.
fry. So that's why Arby's only does it for me because of the curly fries.
I've never had Arby's, actually. So
wait, how are you hating on Arby's and you never had it?
It just doesn't sound appealing.
What?
Roast beef from a fast food,
Well, I don't really eat roast beef, but when I go there, that's probably why you hate on Arby's, because you don't really eat roast beef. But like when I go there, I'm all about the curly fries. Yeah. And maybe I'll have like a sandwich, but it doesn't have to be roast beef.
I got really judgy and I've never had Arby's. Like not one day in my life.
Listen, sometimes we all do it. Sometimes we, have these preconceived notions about what something is going to be like, and that's okay.
My boundary is Arby's, though. Sorry.
Well,
I draw the line. That's
okay. That's okay. We all need boundaries. And speaking of boundaries, today's conversation is centered around boundaries. We have this incredible guest. She is a clinical psychologist, a wonderful wife, and a marvelous mother. And we are very excited to welcome her to the couch.
And I think one of the big things that I learned from her was like when her work is really centered around restructuring family dynamics and kind of like reimagining and retransforming how we see those.
Yeah.
And for me, it was a big aha moment when it comes to those traditional roles that we play.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, yeah, we get to do it differently.
Yeah. And I love that in this conversation, she doesn't just shift the perspective of, you know, us, but also shifts the perspective on societal and generational norms.
Yes.
And so we're just gonna get very cozy on this couch right here. We're gonna get extra cozy.
Shoes is off today, y'all.
Listen, ain't no shoes up in here. You can kick yours off if you want to. Join us in this dose of duality with Dr. Amber Thornton. All right. We are finally here. It has been a long time for me, like just anticipating having this amazing guest on. So we're just going to jump right into the convo. Dr. Amber Thornton.
Hello.
So happy to have you here.
I am so excited. I've been super excited for this conversation. I'm so glad you all allowed me to come on. So just thank you. And this is going to be great.
Yeah. Thank you also for being a listener of this podcast and tuning in and like giving us such amazing, encouraging vibes. We really appreciate that. And the support and like the love just like definitely goes a long way. So thank you.
Of course. And no, I love the podcast. I found it in the middle of y'all's first season. And then I was hooked and I binged every episode. I shared it with people on my email list. Like it's really, really good. And just the topic of duality, I think is so important in whatever walk of life you're in. So that's why I really, really liked it. So I'm excited to be on.
When we made the email list, I was like, what? and you just brought it back as well. I mean, everyone will link it in the show notes, but please sign up for Dr. Amber's email list. It's amazing. There's lots of resources that you provide.
Yes.
But I was like scrolling like, okay, we love this. We love this. And I was like, we're in the newsletter.
So cool.
That was so awesome.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Beautiful. And we want to also continue to show you love. So any resources that you want us to include in our caption after the episode is over, we will also include those.
Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
For sure. So we love to start off breaking the ice. And we like to do a little bit of rapid fire and then just have you say the first word or phrase that comes to mind.
The woo was like you felt the fire already. You're like, ooh.
Yeah, because I know that y'all do this, and so I'm like, okay, don't get into my head too much.
Just whatever comes to mind. There are no wrong answers.
Nope.
All right, here we go. Double texting.
Perfect.
Cancel.
No.
Cut off.
Better ways.
Blocked.
Sometimes necessary.
Ghosting.
We can do better.
Muted.
That was good.
Healthy.
Anxious.
Normal.
Attached.
Healthy.
Thirsty.
Drink water.
Hydrate. Just go hydrate.
Perched.
Ooh, I don't even know perched. I don't know how to respond to this one.
That's okay.
Yeah, whatever's. Is it a color? Is it a feeling?
Question mark.
Okay.
Does that count?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Dating.
Dating. I keep saying healthy. I'm gonna say healthy again.
Okay.
I don't know why that keeps coming.
We like it. We like it. Love.
Divine.
Expectation.
Expected. Hurt, but
FaceTime.
Absolutely not.
We will not FaceTime you, we promise. Aggressive.
Soft.
Meme sharing.
Fun.
Grounding.
meditative.
And ultimately, our word of the day, and has been my word of the season, boundaries.
Necessary,
Mm.
for sure.
Yes.
Mm.
That was fun.
That was
I
great.
liked that you kept saying healthy, because I think a lot of those things can be maybe oftentimes misconstrued, or depending on the person, misunderstood.
Yeah.
And a lot of those things for us are necessary and healthy to bring into our lives.
Exactly. And that's what I realized I kept saying healthy, but it's because a lot of times I'll have clients or students asking me about those things, and I'm constantly reminding them, like, this experience you're having is healthy, it's normal, it's fine, so hopefully that just kind of normalized some things for some people.
Yeah. I think sometimes too we're looking for what's wrong in it, or like the negative, especially like dating. It's like, how can I avoid the traps? And it's like, why are we even looking at it from that angle, right?
Yeah.
So I love how you said healthy, and then I think there was another one you said normal or necessary. It was attached.
Oh, yeah. I think
I forgot what the exact word was.
It was attached. Yep. And I think I said normal. I forget.
It was
what
like,
I said.
it was like normal or something.
Mhm.
When
And
again,
I
when
said, right. Well, I was just gonna say I said that because sometimes people are so worried about, am I too attached?
Yep.
yes.
Is it okay for me to be close or want to be close, or am I being too needy?
Yeah.
Women say that a lot, and I'm like,
Yeah.
no. Like,
Yeah.
we're human, and humans want to be close. Humans want to be attached, and so that's normal. It's healthy. It's natural.
Yeah.
When we talk about being attached, I would want to ask you, like, what is the difference between attachment and codependency? Because I know that there's a difference between the two, and one may come off as being unhealthy as opposed to the one that we're referring to now and talking about attachment, and attachment styles can also be healthy. So talk a little bit to us about that.
Right. That's a great question. And I think it's important to talk about the difference. So attachment, wanting to be attached, is so normal, right? And so that is just the natural human desire to be close to other humans, or to be loved by other humans, to feel like you're belonging with someone else, to be intimate, whether that's just like emotional intimacy, physical intimacy, that attachment. And it could be between adults, it could be between a child and an adult. That is normal and healthy. I think codependence gets into the area where we feel like our life is dependent upon the actions, the beliefs, the moves of someone else, right? So like, depending on what they do, then decides what I do. Or, well, I can't live out or be who I need to be if they make a certain move, or the move that they make has then made it so that I have to do this, right? So that's that codependence. So it's not just I'm attached and we help each other meet our needs, but rather I need you to be able to live my life, or I need you to be able to move in a certain way in my life. And that can be unhealthy because we can't control people.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of, it can be really scary and just not good when we're feeling like we need someone to then be able to live our own life.
Yeah.
And I think like ushering in like interdependency and like swinging the pendulum to because we do, to a degree, that belonging, like we need each other to be in community with each other. I guess, how do you go from, or from your perspective, go from that idea of being dependent to like interdependency?
Oh, that's a good question too. And like, all the while, therapy can help. So like, if anyone's listening and they're like, ooh, I feel like I might be codependent and I want to be more interdependent, that can be a process that somebody has to work through for a while. Like, it could be a few years, and like working in therapy to kind of process, like, how it feels to be with other people. What are the triggers around it? What are your deepest desires? Like, therapy can help you process all of that. But basically, I think moving from codependence to more interdependence is really like the understanding that I may desire to be close. I may have needs that other people can meet, and I still am able to find that balance where if I need to meet my own needs, I can do that too. Right. And again, it's okay to need help. It's healthy to want and need support. But like, again, being careful about how far are we going where we feel like, well, I can no longer meet my own needs, or I can no longer fulfill my own purpose or my own livelihood if this other person is not present. So kind of like helping yourself to know, like, it's okay for me to desire this closeness, and I can stand on, my own grounding, and I can do this. I got this.
Yeah. I love how we talked about, the needs of a person, because I think in therapy, what I learned is that before I could even vocalize to my husband, like, what I felt in terms of like, okay, like I need to feel this sort of belonging, or like whatever the case may be, I had to very clearly state what my needs were. And it was interesting because when my therapist asked me, I was like, I thought I knew the answer to this question. I think I need to dig a little deeper. So so much of it, I think, in the journey for me has been like being able to clarify what my needs are, and then also being able to sit there and listen to what my partner's needs are. And then we develop a healthy way to be both be able to meet each other's needs, and also not have that codependency, have an interdependency.
Yeah. I think a younger me, as you were speaking, I definitely was on the dependent end, where you hold someone to such a high regard, where it's almost like oxygen in a way, right? Where it can become a little crippling, especially in those the earlier relationships, and you're figuring out your own feelings and what you believe and think, and you put so much into that person, that it could feel crippling. And I've been there.
It's like I think we all go through our like no air, Chris Brown, Jordan Sparks age.
That was one of my favorite songs.
Mine too.
I was like, how am I going to breathe, Jordan? How am I? But what was helpful for me in identifying like what my attachment style was, like so when I discovered there was attachment styles, because it existed, but probably when I was like in my early 20s, I had no idea about that.
Same.
Right? Thank God for these 30s. I'm learning so much. I'm becoming a whole human now. And so when I discovered this concept and started reading about it, it made so much sense. And so I could see the relationships and the people that triggered the insecurities in me, or even the ones who made me feel like more avoidant. And I was like, ooh, like I'm running from this. But when I realized what those situations were and what those circumstances were that caused those triggers to come out of me, it helped me be able to set boundaries better. But I had to know that to then understand, okay, so like when this is happening, I actually need to take a moment. Like like it's bringing things up where I want to like reach, and I know that's not healthy. That's just what I've been programmed to do. So I'm going to like take a pause and take space. Or when I'm being avoidant, it's like, Alicia, express what you mean. Don't hold this in. You're bottling now. You're like emotionally constipated. Like let it go. Like let it go. Let it go.
Yeah, no, that's all really good. And I will say too, I mean, you brought a dose to the table today, so we should just dive into that. Dr. Amber, you know this part of our show where we go into the dose. Alicia has taken the floor today, and let me tell you, might not be about attachment, but more like detachment.
Ooh, yes.
And some boundaries there.
Hard boundaries need to be set.
Let them know what's up.
So Dr. Amber, we would love to, I'm loving to hear your feedback on this. So let me pop the phone. So what has been happening, I don't know if everyone knows, but recently, Aoki Lee and Ming Lee, so the Simmons daughters, Kamora Lee Simmons and Russell Simmons' daughters, posted. So they posted for Father's Day, which just passed recently, and they posted their mom saying Happy Father's Day to their mom. We love how you said that, right? Because that said a lot right there. You get where we're going. That was a lot right there. And so there wasn't words or anything. It just said Happy Father's Day to Mom. So on the back end of this morning, Kamora Lee, she gets online and just very fresh face, like crying. She was like, it's super early in the morning. And apparently Russell has been sending all these messages, like harassing the family and saying all these really like hurtful and mean things. And she says that they've been dealing with that for years now. And she's just been kind of concealing it and trying to protect the kid, like all the kids, the whole entire family. But as the girls are getting older, they're developing this relationship, or like she said, developing the lack of relationship with their father. And he is going online and then making it appear that they have a relationship. So one of the comments she said is he sent flowers to himself and was like, oh my goodness, thank you, Kimora. Like, I love how we're co-parenting. And she's just like, absolutely not. Like, I did not. That did not happen. That did not happen. And so the most recent thing is we know that Aoki, she just graduated from Harvard. Shouts to her, right? That's like so amazing, right? And she's modeling at the same time. Like, you,
hats off.
You do that, girl.
Yes, baby.
But he cut them off. He cut them off in the middle of them getting through the final stretch of trying to like graduate. And so she was, Kimora was very shady. She was like, it wasn't much anyway, maybe like $500 for their allowance. But still, it's just that connection to their dad, not feeling protected or supported by your father. And so now it's probably actually happening as we speak. There's been all this back and forth and the girls are speaking out. Kimora's been speaking out. And it's just, I find it hard, even in my own life, because Father's Day just passed and love my dad to death. But there's been tension. I need him to show up more compassionate than he's been showing up. And it's me expressing that and him being like, this is compassion. I'm like, that's not how I'm receiving this right now. And so I find it hard to set boundaries with parents.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, especially as we get older and you're becoming this adult and you're like, no, I'm not a child anymore. It's like, that's not going to fly.
Yeah.
Like, I feel disrespected or like, or this isn't serving me. But how do you, I don't know. What do y'all think about the situation in general?
Yeah.
It got real messy.
I mean, I'm going to toss it to Dr. Amber for her expertise because I think you got this one on lock. She was like, ooh, ooh, ooh.
You lean back with that one.
Well, first of all, because I just be so oblivious sometimes. I didn't know that was happening. So that was a shock to hear that. It just feels like it's probably it's a personal situation that they're going through, but also a very complex one. Because especially, so like where you were going, Alicia, saying how hard it is to set boundaries with parents. The first thing that popped into my head was just how, and this is something that I work on with clients, but then also in my own personal life, to be honest, our parents are older. They often have very different life experiences than we do. Like, I love thinking about and studying generational differences. You know, I'm always talking about how I'm a millennial because I think those things really do matter. And not in the social media sense of like, oh, millennials, but truly, you know, our generational differences when it comes to who we are, who our parents were, who our grandparents were, they're just very different. You know, sometimes our parents speak a different language, like emotionally or socially, than we do. And so when we're asking for things or when we are communicating or expressing how we feel, they're not receiving it that way. And then vice versa too. And so it just makes me wonder, like, where the breakdown came in their family specifically, you know, because I know that this didn't just start now when they posted the Happy Father's Day Mom post. You know, this was probably years in the making. And also something that I realized, too, is that a lot of times when these family breakdowns, these really big family breakdowns happen is because there's also some trauma at the core. You know, oftentimes there's the trauma with our parents. And then also because they have been traumatized, they don't express things well, they don't communicate things well, and that can impact us too. So I just know that this is probably such a complex situation, like so layered. If all of them were going to therapy, they probably all have a very valid case of like what their perspective is and how things are going. Just, I'm sure it's so nuanced.
Yeah. I love that you started out by saying this is a personal situation and also putting up that, you know, idea of it being complex and very complicated. I will say this one kind of hits harder because of knowing that they're in the public eye. And, you know, my family is also in the public eye. Shout out to my dad. He is an incredible human. But we have also had a roller coaster of a journey. And I love that Dr. Amber pointed out the fact that we are from different generations. And so my parents had completely different life experiences and were brought up a completely different way than I was. And so oftentimes my therapist has pointed out, like, trying to maybe see things from different perspectives or trying to understand where they might be coming from or why they might have reacted the way that they did or, you know, responded in a certain way. I think that oftentimes when things get to this point where it becomes public, it's it's definitely gotten so heated at this point, and there is a lot of things that have gone on behind the scenes that we will know nothing about. And so I'm also very careful when talking about these sort of family situations, especially when you're talking about people that are in the limelight, in the public eye, because there is so much of their story that we don't see, and very much so, like, you know, we're all public figures on social media. So like when people see our highlight reels and when people see our stories, they're not thinking that they're only getting bits and pieces. They're like, oh yeah, I know her. Yeah. I know Dr. Amber. I know what she likes to talk about. I've seen her kids. I've seen her husband. I've been all up in her house, you know? So I think that oftentimes people get this idea that like, they know you and they know what you're going through and they have no idea. You know, even just sitting on this couch now and us having this conversation, I would have never known anything about you and your father's relationship until you shared it. But if you sent a Happy Father's Day post over the weekend and you said something lovely about your dad, I'm thinking you guys have a beautiful relationship, which also might just be complicated. It doesn't make it any less beautiful. You know, it doesn't make it bad. But yeah, I love the idea of like plugging in the fact that like we are getting a hair of the story. We have no idea what goes beyond that. But also like in a lot of ways, it touches my heart because like I also am a kid of, you know, a celebrity. I am celebrity offspring. And so I get like, sometimes we go through a lot of trauma just because of the role and the position that we are, you know, brought into this world to be in, and we don't get a choice. And so, you know, I commend both of those young girls for having to grow up in front of an audience. And like, you know, we all want to express ourselves. We all want to be heard, felt, seen, loved. And I think at the core of it, that's what all of the people involved want. You know, I think it always comes back to that.
And that's the part where I think in my role as a psychologist, it's easy to hold that, but like as a human, like every day, it's hard, right? Because like they all of the people in that situation, even the people who might be looking at us like, ooh, the bad guy, they want to be loved. They want to feel heard. They want to feel seen. They all want that. There's just some obstacle that's getting in the way. And we, the spectators, will never know.
I love that you said earlier that, like if they all probably sat down for therapy, like each person would have like some type of validity to like why they feel the way that they feel. And even just like acknowledging that, like, it's like, I don't necessarily agree, but I understand why that might make you feel this way. And then now you're reacting in this way, or how this got even more exasperated. So I think even coming at it from that perspective is really helpful to think about almost the humanity, because it's very easy. And we were the other day we were talking about like Black male masculinity, and so I think it's really easy sometimes when you look at Black men and to just go at it like, another father that's not, you know, doing, or maybe the way that we think he should show up. And he has his own, like, he's human. He has his own set of traumas that we're talking about that he grew up with, and if it hasn't been dealt with, then that just bleeds out onto the other people that are around you, your kids, your wife, they're the closest people to you.
For sure. For sure. I know Alicia had made a point and we wanted to ask you about setting boundaries, but like she made a point about setting boundaries with your parents. So I want to first talk about why is it sometimes so difficult to set boundaries? And then also, what are the benefits of setting boundaries?
Yes, it's so hard. So like, first, with parents specifically, like it's hard to set boundaries, period, for a lot of reasons. But I think with parents, I'm trying to think how to word this. I think, again, generationally, I think there has been a shift where that it's becoming more accepted and more normalized to prioritize your mental health, your well-being. And we're now realizing that part of that means saying no sometimes, or part of that means setting boundaries. And I think for our parents, that was not a thing for many of them in their generations, in their parents' generations. That was disrespectful. You know, that was like unheard of, because maybe for them, the priority was more about like the well-being of the family, the well-being of everyone else around me, or, you know, doing what's best to kind of not make waves. Like, and again, I can't speak for everyone and everyone's experience, but I think we can definitely make this generality that right now, we are more so prioritizing mental health, well-being, and with that, we know that boundaries come.
Yeah.
That doesn't make it easy to do, though. And so I think in general, it's hard to set boundaries because, well, one, we're just not used to it. Like, this is new. I don't think many of us looked at our parents and said, oh, this was a great example of them setting boundaries. You know, we may not have had several examples of that. So as a generation, I think this is a new experience, even though we see the value. But also, I think just as humans, again, like we talked about attachment, we want to be liked. Just naturally, we want to feel like people like us. Sometimes there's something in us that wants to please the other person. And so when we set a boundary, though, that can put those desires at risk. And that doesn't mean it's wrong, but like, you know, a lot of times when you set a boundary, it can feel like, ooh, I don't like that, or that wasn't comfortable. And so I think that's why it can be hard. And I think also, especially for women, you know, we have definitely been socialized to people please and to think about the other first. And so when you're setting a boundary, you are like not people pleasing and you're thinking about yourself first. And so you're doing the opposite of what society has told you to do. And that's hard.
Yeah. Yeah. I think like in this season, because I'm kind of being forced to set some boundaries now that I am stepping into this chapter of parenthood. And so like I feel like I need to be like incentivized to draw boundaries. So my next question is like, can you touch on some of the benefits of setting boundaries? Like, what does it do for you? And I know that like the boundaries that I have recently set in the aftermath, way later after I feel bad and I feel like I might have disappointed someone, I'm like, oh, I'm really glad that I did that for myself. I feel a sense of relief. But like, what are the ultimate long-term benefits of setting those boundaries?
Right. Okay. So 3 benefits pop into my head. So 1, I think setting boundaries helps you to better connect to yourself and better take care of yourself, right? Because like essentially I think of a boundary as a protection. And so, of course, like if our boundaries are too rigid, then it might be too closed off. But like ideally, we're setting boundaries that are like flexible. We can move them when we need to, but ultimately they're there to protect us. And so when we have that protection, we feel safe, we feel supported, we feel honored. So it's like you telling yourself, I love you so much. And because I love you, I'm going to set this boundary to keep you safe. Right. And so it's you connecting to yourself and you showing yourself like, I love you. But then the second thing that it does is it helps you actually to connect better with people. And I say this because sometimes when we set boundaries with other people, it will kind of really quickly help you see, okay, is this person for me or not? Right. So the people that may fall off, maybe they get really upset with your boundary. They literally can't take it. That is like a clue to you. Okay, like, should this person continue to be in my life, and or do I need to change the capacity for which they're in my life? And so when you are able to set a boundary and that person is okay with it, even if they don't like it, you know, they still honor and respect your boundary, it helps you to know who your people are. You know, because ideally your people should never have a big problem with your boundaries, even if they're not agreeing with them or is, you know, they don't like them. But I think the third thing, and I'm thinking about this because I work with mothers a lot, when we set boundaries, it helps to teach our children that it's okay for them to do it too. And even if it's not our children, like people who are looking up to us or people who we might be role models to, we get to help show them like, this is how you do it. This is how you respect yourself. This is how you honor your body. This is how you connect to yourself. Like, we set this boundary and it's okay. So those are the 3 big benefits that come to mind for me.
All 3 amazing ones that resonate deeply with me too.
One, like, so this is, you were describing the first benefit of just like, oh, it's like honoring yourself and you'll feel good. And so going back to, as women, sometimes it's harder to set boundaries, especially I think in relationship with men, like that dynamic becomes even more challenging. So a small win that I thought of is earlier I was on the phone with my like pharmacist and the guy was like, I give him my name and everyone usually pronounces my name wrong. It's like, it's Alicia, but it's like Alicia. And so it's happened so much that it's almost like interchangeable to me. And I don't usually correct someone. I'm just like, okay, like I know what you meant. Like I see you're looking at the way it's spelled. This is how you think. This is how most people normally pronounce it. And so I don't even know. I was just sitting there and I was like, oh, no, it's actually Alicia. And he was like, Alicia. I was like, Alicia. And he goes, Alicia. I was like, yeah, you got it. That was perfect. And I don't even know what made me
do it. Yeah.
I was just sitting there like, no, we're just not going to do this today. Like, you say it right. Yep. But also my energy, it wasn't coming from like a sassy place. Like, you're going to say this, right?
Yeah.
I like changed the way I thought about it. I was like, approach it from a place of like, oh, I'm just showing you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because sometimes when I think about setting a boundary, it's like, no, like it's more harsh.
Yeah.
That's how it feels. Or I'm like anticipating you rejecting the boundary. And I was like, don't even put that thought in your head. Just say it that way.
Yeah.
And then the rest of the conversation, it was like, Alicia. And it just warmed me a little.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like major dialogue around it or anything. And I was just like, that small step is like, just start doing that more often. And I didn't think it bothered me. And it's like, but you just let it happen all the time. Like, what happens if you corrected that? Like, would you feel better about it?
Yeah.
So that was my
little
small
thing.
one. Yeah.
I like that.
Ones. Yeah. That's so good. I really like that a lot. And I think it just goes to show, like, when we can put those small little boundaries in place, period, in our daily life, like, you don't have to wait until you've gotten upset and now you're having to enforce this super harsh boundary. Like, it literally can be like soft, gentle, like, this is how to be in relationship with me, whether it's your pharmacist, whether it's your partner, like, you're just, essentially it's also like teaching people how to relate to you or be in relationship with you. And that's healthy too, because like, how else will they know?
Yeah.
Right? And it helps you to connect more authentically to people. So I think that's great.
Yeah.
One of the things that stuck out too, when we were talking about with parents and setting boundaries, is I think from a cultural perspective, if you're come from like African descent or even West Indian or just Black American too, because of what our parents had to do to get us to where we are, there's a certain level of, they're like, hopes, dreams, like things that you care about, like you do what you need to do to provide, right? To like make a way. And so people of our generation, millennials, right, were like, but I have this idea. And I'm really talented with this. And I want to lean more into like the arts of things. Yeah. And it can be a challenge. I think I've like experienced that. And it's like, no, there's alternative ways that like, like ways that people can have a career that like don't necessarily go by the traditional way. And I think that becomes a challenge too, in setting boundaries and just thinking about the cultural differences or like the age gap is they just don't. It's a new world essentially of what's possible, and so they don't know.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. And, sometimes when that comes up for me, and so I'm thinking about like my own personal life. Same. And I think about how when I used to get really frustrated by my parents like not getting it, I then start to have compassion because I'm like, okay, they literally had to live a life and do a lot of things that they did not want to do, but they did it because they knew that it would get them from A to B. And it then allowed me to get to Z. Like, truly. And so I just think about that. Like, it's in this moment, they may not be understanding my life experience or the ideas that I have, because I got a lot of ideas, but like their experiences they got me here. And so it helps me to have a little bit of compassion for like, okay, in this moment, we're butting heads, but I know that it's because, we have lived very different life experiences. So it's an interesting topic for sure.
Yeah. And it's definitely a challenge, but I think a challenge in the best way, because as I've started to set clear boundaries with my parents even, because now, especially now that I'm having a child, your parents kind of rush in and they want to tell you all of the things that you need to do to prepare and like how you need to raise your child or the things you need to do. And I know the advice comes from such a good place, but I've had to set boundaries in letting my parents know that this is my journey and it's my turn to be able to do this. And so like, I appreciate the advice, but also like being very clear with like, this is what I've chosen to do. And it's okay that you chose differently, but this is what I would like to try, and I need you to also respect that. And like, it's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard.
Yeah.
But so worth it. And there is a concept that you've talked about a lot on your social media, Dr. Amber, is default parenting. And so like, as I think about how I'm setting up my household, I would love for you to share with our audience what default parenting is and how you kind of teach that method. She loves talking about this. This is so good.
And I was just saying, like, I'm so glad you're thinking of this now.
Yeah.
Because I think the trouble that I often find families in is that, they've had children, they've set up the routines, the systems, all that. And it's really set on a foundation that is shaky because it's not one that they have really talked about. It's kind of just something they just started doing based on maybe what they saw their parents do or just like this instinct of what they thought they should do or what society has said, like, this is what a good mom is, this is what a good dad is. And so this concept of default parenting essentially is that if there are two parents present, and we all know that sometimes there's not, and there's nothing wrong with that. However, if there are two parents present, and again, these parents don't have to be married, partnered, but if there are two adults in the home, one parent is more likely doing more of the things at home, whether it's the things for the child care, caregiving, child rearing, home related things. It's mostly falling on one person. A lot of times we typically see that if it is a heteronormative household, it's usually falling on mom. And I think, once I start talking about that stuff, people they're not familiar with the term default parenting, but when I talk about the experiences, they're like, oh,
we get that
happening in my household, or that's how I grew up, right? Like I grew up seeing my mom literally do everything. That's what people tell me. And they're like, yeah, my dad was there and he loved us, but mom was cooking, mom was cleaning, mom was getting us dressed, mom was doing bath time, mom was doing this, and mom had a job. And so that's that experience. And so I like to talk about that a lot because, again, as millennials, our world has like really opened up in terms of opportunity, in terms of how we're thinking, in terms of how we are thinking about mental health and well-being. And now we are starting to see like, ooh, this way of family life, family living, where most of these things are falling on a woman or a mom in a situation is not really conducive for her to have a healthy well-being, a healthy life, or even a healthy connection with her kids, because she's likely more fatigued, more exhausted, more burnt out, and it's hard to be present that way. So I love talking about that because it just helps to, one, validate these experiences that women are having, like, oh my gosh, this is happening in my household and I don't like it. But then also it's empowering them to know, wow, there's another choice that I can make, or I can think about this different, or I can have a different conversation with my partner so that we can switch things up. There's a different option. So that is the topic. That is the thing.
I love that so much. And so I've started to teach my husband a little bit about default parenting, also sharing your videos with him too. They've been very helpful. And so we're practicing some of those techniques just through like, creating the nursery. Like, what are the responsibilities that you enjoy? And what are the responsibilities that I enjoy? And like, what is something that you are really looking forward to like taking on? And it's interesting. We actually had one of those conversations today. And like, I was like, I didn't know that you wanted to do that. And I can't read your mind. So like, you have to share with me that that's what you want to do. That's what you want to take on. And like, this is something that's going to bring you joy. So like, I'm going to let you take the wheel in that, So it's interesting. We're starting to like shift and figure out what feels comfortable for him, what feels comfortable for me. And I'm starting to communicate to him like, hey, like this feels too heavy on me. Like I am actively creating life inside my body. I am so tired. And so I need you to take some of these things off my plate. What feels comfortable for you to be able to take off my plate? And I think as we start to develop that like communication, that healthy communication style between each other, we're going to start to naturally do that in our parenting journey too.
Yes. And please keep it up, because I think, essentially what I'm also wanting people to do is shift away from this idea of gendered norms in how we're doing family, and I think, again, we're talking about our parents' generation. Those norms were very much present. Like, this is what it means to be a wife. This is what it means to be a mom. This is what it means to be a dad and a husband. But I think for our generation, we're able to kind of shift away. And I like to encourage people, less about these roles and more about thinking of your family as a system.
Yeah.
Think of it as like a functioning system, and every part of the system has a role to play. And it doesn't work if you're at a factory and only one piece is doing all the work. Right?
Yeah.
And so if we think of it like that, then it's kind of clicking like, oh, okay, so we are all in this together to make this whole family system run well. And it doesn't run well when one person is doing more of the things.
Yeah.
And so we have to really think about it like that. And I love that approach, that conversation you're having with your husband of what do you enjoy? What do I enjoy? There's probably going to be a lot of things that y'all won't enjoy.
Yeah.
So then you all will develop a routine around that. Like, okay, well, we don't enjoy this thing. When is it your turn? When is it my turn? Right? So constant communication, and again, thinking of your family as a system.
Yeah, I love that.
That is such a good way. Because in my head, I was like, okay, how do you like even embark upon that conversation with like your partner? But even like how you explained it about thinking about it as a system, and as like even explaining that, because I'm like, oh yeah, that does like make it seem more approachable for everyone. It's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna play my part. Like, I'm the wheel. You're the steering wheel. Oh, I got this. Like, I can also like turn it here. And so it doesn't feel like we're so attached to the norms that come with like some of those roles. Because there's a lot, like my brother is actually like fairly decent cook. And so growing up, he's like 10 years older than me. Like he would do things like that. And so for me, it's actually, I'm not a great cook.
Neither am I. We have that in common.
I was like, I'm
not my forte.
So when we're talking about the norms, like I think about like as I like build a family, I'm like, I don't think it needs to be a quick meal. I'm that mom that's like, it's gonna be like an air fryer because that's what I'm used to eating, like 20-minute meals. But I'm so thankful that I've attracted men so far that really love to cook. And so I just imagine that would be one of those things where it's like, hey, I'm not great at that, but you know what I am great at? Organizing. Got it down packed.
Yeah.
Got us here.
Yeah. Those are some of the conversations that we're having now. Very realistically, it's funny because I saw this meme the other day. I think it was on parents.com or something like that. Anyways, the kid was saying, because their dad was gone and it was like the mom and the kid at home. And the kid was like in the kitchen eating cereal. And the mom came in and she was like, oh, I was just about to make dinner for us. And the child communicated to the mom like, hey, mom, I think I saved us both because, dad's not here. And we all know what you would do in the kitchen. And I just thought, I showed it to my husband. We started cracking up laughing. I was like, this is our life. This is our life. Our kid is going to know when you're not home. Like, dinner is going to be, we're going to be ordering in. We're going to be air frying. We're going to,
That's actually how it is in my home too.
Really?
Oh, that's so comforting.
I don't cook. I don't.
Yes, Dr. Amber.
It has to be something quick.
Yes.
And so every now and then my husband will travel for work. And so I'll be like, okay, you all, it's just me and you, mommy and Cedric and Eden. And one of them will be like, okay, who's going to cook dinner?
Oh.
And I'm like, I know enough to cook dinner. But like they're just so used to dad doing it.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
And like, okay, who's going to cook dinner? Like I got it, but I'm not the mom that will do all of the meals.
Yeah.
And again, like that's okay.
Yeah.
And I think it's so interesting that concept is like one that we feel like we're breaking ground. Like, I'm a woman and I don't have to cook.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that for the next generation, like this won't even be a conversation. Like instead it should just be like everyone should know enough to take care of themselves. And then from there, if you do decide to be partnered or have a family, you all work it out so that everyone is fed.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I love that. I really love it.
I think that like what I enjoy too, like hearing this as you're saying all this is the generation of men that they're just more aware. And so I think you can see the strides that have been made. I can just look at the men I've dated and I'm like, you didn't make fun of me. You didn't laugh at me. Like, if anything, it's my homegirls who are like, how you ever gonna? And I'm like, I have other talents and gifts, okay, that I can bring to a relationship.
I am providing in my role in the house and like,
Like, but I have friends who make like a pot pie on a Tuesday, and I'm just like, it could be a Sunday, a slow Sunday, and I'm not doing it. That is not what's going down.
Me neither. But my husband makes a mean chicken pot pie.
Oh, really?
Yes. And my new request from him is that I would like him to make shepherd's pie. So he's going to make that this week. I'm very excited about that. Love some shepherd's pie.
Jimmy.
But it's so shout outs to Jimmy. He is the top chef in my house. But it's so funny because, we are like, breaking these generational and societal norms as we are very vocal about it as women in the world and working women in the world. And it's interesting because like I go home and I'm reminded of those norms because my grandma will still be like, come on, you're going to help me in the kitchen. And then like my husband will he's only allowed to sit down and I have to go make his plate. If I don't make his plate.
Oh, goodness.
Oh, my grandma is going
hit a nerve.
I know. My grandma's going off though if I don't make his plate.
That's big. That's big. That is huge. The whole who made the plate making situation like so heavy on the woman?
I don't know.
And it's like in your household normally that's not what's going down.
No.
But here I have to be like, you're right. Let me go make the plate.
Listen, and I'm not arguing with grandma.
Oh no, I'm gonna make the plate.
Yep.
Even when like I'm at family functions and like say my partner wasn't there, it was like, you're not gonna bring him a plate, and I'm like, I didn't even think about it. Like, is that the only thing men do is eat?
Like, or like also maybe he already ate.
Yeah, like I think it's fine.
And it's so interesting. So like
the onus is on
generations,
us.
and I think about this a lot. Like I think maybe for your grandmother's generation, that was what it meant to be a good wife and what it meant to be, a good partner. And I think, and this is complicated too, because I think a lot of times we think about, men maybe were the ones that were the sole providers. They were working. Maybe a lot of times women weren't working, but that's different for Black women because Black women were historically always working.
Yes,
but
always.
Still, it somehow got kind of like baked into the fabric of like, still to be a good wife is to serve your partner in a way. And I think it's because just culturally, maybe when he went out, he was going through so many things, right? And so that's kind of got baked into, okay, well, this is how we protect our men. This is how we love our men. But again, now we're realizing we can love our men and support our men in all these other ways that have very little to do with how much we're supposed to do for them. Now we can separate that out and we see like, okay, this can be love, this can be support, and it's not dependent upon how much a woman can do for a man.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was a whole bar.
I know. I mean, I'm thankful that we are changing and transforming and evolving as a people because, I don't think I could have done what my grandma was doing.
No.
She was really doing everything.
No. Yeah. And my grandma, like, even when like indoor laundry machines were a thing, like she would still want us to hang the clothes out in the line. And I'm just like, Grandma, you got a dryer and a washer. Like we don't need to do this anymore. And so some of those roles, I'm like, how did you, and she was a nurse. I'm like, how did you do a whole day's worth of work, wash clothes, cook dinner? And they were cooking. They didn't have air fryers.
So it was like full meal.
Yeah. They didn't have Trader Joe's that like came with meats pre-seasoned, right? Like they had to make these things or start early in the morning and like prepare everything and then come home and then like continue the process. And there's so much love in that. And so I understand that there's the plate symbolizes the love, and the care and the affection. And I love what you said, Dr. Ambers. There's so many other ways that we get to do that now. And it doesn't just have to only be that exchange in it. I want to talk a little bit though about when to set boundaries.
Early.
Yes. She said early
and often
at the beginning. And again, it depends on the type of boundary that you're needing to set, right? Like, because I think, like I said, too many of us wait until it's like, okay, I have to set this hard boundary because I'm angry and I'm resentful that something keeps happening that I'm not comfortable with, but we can be setting boundaries like upon our first meetings with people, just like, so for instance, with your example, if I'm just meeting someone and they pronounce my name wrong, I can correct them. That's a boundary, a very easy, simple boundary and boom, set it, right? Or if someone like tries to embrace me and give me a hug, but I don't like hugs. I just say, oh, I don't do hugs, but I can do this, right? That's a boundary. Set it early, often, as much as you need to. And I think the earlier we do it, the more frequently we do it, the less of a thing it is.
Yeah.
And so like ideally early, often as you need.
Yeah. I almost want to say like boundaries, making them sexy, like in your head, thinking about them being more sexy or less intimidating, because then it's there's an excitement that can come about in setting the boundary, because it's like, oh my goodness, we're like building this relationship. So like, let me tell you how I would like to, be held or supported in this way, as opposed to just getting nervous or feeling like it's being mean. I always come back to that. I'm like, oh, I don't want to be mean.
Yeah, I know. That's usually me. But I actually, even after this conversation, I already feel a little more comfortable in setting those boundaries.
I'm going to go set one right after this. I don't know.
Are you really?
I'm just like,
You're just ready.
I'm feeling like
amped up and ready to go. Well, Dr. Amber, this has been such a wonderful conversation. I know our audience has benefited. Oh, yeah, we didn't.
Let's set the intention.
Okay, so we can end with an intention card.
Yeah.
So we'll end with an intention card. But before we go, I want you to say anywhere that people can find you, how they can sign up for your newsletter, and any information you want our audience to know about you.
Yes, of course. I'm always on Instagram. So really any social media place, you can find me at Dr. Amber Thornton. My website is dramberthornton.com. You can go there and there will be a pop-up asking you to be a part of my newsletter, or if you're on Instagram, the link in my bio, it'll direct you to sign up to my newsletter. And my newsletter is a bi-monthly newsletter, so I send it out on the 1st and the 14th of every month, and it's just got a ton of stuff about for parents, for mothers, resources that are really helpful, but then also things that I'm into, things that are helping me both personally and professionally. So it's a cool little thing.
It is. Yes. It is. It's always filled with so many gems.
So many gems.
I appreciate that. And before we close out, we're going to just set a little intention here. We're going to take a deep breath, and then we're going to, And so
because you're virtual, we're going to channel the energy. So just send the thoughts, send the good energy out, and we'll meet you on the airwaves here. Okay. I'll let you go first, Steve.
All right. Are we choosing one together, or we just?
Oh, let's do it. Yeah. Let's do one
Okay. Here we go. Oh,
we're in there. Are you
feeling this? Yeah, I feel that. Okay. I feel like we both kind of landed right around there.
Ooh. Okay, this is good. Wow. I am bold.
Ooh,
I speak my truth.
Yes.
I speak my boundaries. I speak my truth in a loving way. My courage to communicate my needs is powered by love for myself and love for others, because I am bold. This could have just been a definition for boundaries.
Literally.
What? Wow.
Yes. Wow. Right?
It couldn't have been a better way to close.
Not.
That was amazing.
Wow.
Well, Dr. Amber, we appreciate you. We're going to stay connected with you. Yeah. I know our audience would also love to connect with you. So you already heard exactly where to find her. dramberthornton.com, at Dr. Amber Thornton on social media. And we hope that you have a beautiful, blessed rest of your week. And we're looking forward to talking to you again, because you're coming back.
Absolutely. We just hit the top of the iceberg. There's so much more.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye. See you. If you have enjoyed this episode of Dose of Duality, please do us a favor. Like, share with the homie, and subscribe. We love hearing your feedback, and trust us, we respond to everything.
Sure do. And don't forget to rate and review this podcast. Come back again next week for another Dose of Duality.